Nigeria is a country blessed with attractions from the unique wildlife and vast tracts of unspoiled nature, ranging from tropical forests, magnificent waterfalls, and other natural attractions. Better still, our climate conditions are particularly conducive for holidaying. The challenge of tourism that Nigeria faces today is not the absence of tourist locations or its captivating cultures, but the lack of influx despite the abundance of these attractions at our disposal. Talk about not harnessing or making the best out of what nature has blessed us with. These historical and mind-boggling beautiful sights just need to be more publicized to attract patronage. And such publicity should not be limited to their locality alone, but extended to the national and international communities. This industry, if revamped, has the potential to attract foreign exchange earnings that can easily run into billions of naira annually if well managed. There's a Yoruba adage that says, what you're looking for in Sokoto is in your Shokoto. Sokoto is a state in the north of Nigeria, while Shokoto is a pair of trousers in the Yoruba language. Everybody wears them. Simply put, it means the treasure you are traveling so far and wide in search of is inside your pockets. Though some of our creative industries have received many accolades globally, the nation still has much more to offer. The time is long overdue for us as Nigerians to blow our own trumpet in the tourism sector, for the world to see, feel, and experience our hidden treasures.
Absolutely. The tourism, hospitality, and recreation sector is one of the largest globally, with over 1 billion people traveling internationally per annum. The sector contributes over 5% to global GDP. In Africa, consumer spending within the sector is projected to exceed $250 billion by year 2030. Tourism is nicknamed the Sunshine Sunrise sector because of the happiness, calmness, richness, and the potentials of the sector, especially within sunny Africa, home to a large and vibrant populace and highly coveted natural monuments. Recognizing the high potentials of tourism for the continent through good leadership, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia is rapidly becoming a foremost regional travel hub in sub-Saharan Africa, and Cairo, Egypt remains a leading travel hub in northern Africa. We are also seeing impressive growth in Kigali, Rwanda, Nairobi, Kenya, and Casablanca, Morocco, with each country boasting functional national airlines that transports tourists to notable destinations globally. Increased tourism development across the continent is critical to intra-Africa trade, wealth creation, employment opportunities, increased standards of living, and stronger global positioning. In Nigeria, our entrepreneurs, artists, investors, and patriots have contributed largely to tourism development. Although some of their efforts have been marred by inefficient public leadership and instability caused by financial insecurity. From resorts to amusement parks, beach clubs, malls, and cinemas, we want the industry to maintain high standards. Good leadership in 2023 is crucial to Nigeria's excellence. Businesses and individuals arise collectively. Please pick up your PVCs and vote for who you truly believe is healthiest and most capable of leading us forward. We shall watch this special report by Arise's Kingsley Ikena.
If there is one sector that has been neglected in Nigeria, it will be the tourism sector. As a country rich in culture and heritage, Nigeria hasn't done a good job in projecting its beauty to the world. With the drop in global oil prices over the past few years, which has exposed the vulnerabilities of Nigeria's dependence on crude oil revenues, the tourism industry, if revamped, has the potential to attract substantial foreign exchange earnings. While several African countries have increased the scope of tourism to meet global benchmarks, Nigeria's approach remains stuck in the past. Firstly, we have underinvested in arts and culture, and so have been unable to tap into its tourism potentials. Secondly, we have failed to bring in our practice of arts and culture into today's world to appeal to a global market, thus alienating major potential tourists. Across the world, tourism has evolved to become one of the fastest growing industries, and this growth has been driven by advanced technology in travel and an increased holiday culture. The development of tourism in Nigeria cannot be achieved without the collective efforts and the investment commitment of a public-private partnership with major efforts from local communities and state governments. Tourist sites such as the Mambila Plateau in Taraba, Obudu Mountain Resort in Cross River, Yankari Games Reserve in Bauchi, among others, could be developed to world standards. The tourist market is global, but states could create niches targeting tourists who have diverse and special interests. For instance, Taraba State and the Obudu area of Cross River, which have scenic mountainous attractions, could create a tourist niche around mountain hiking, while Bauchi State could easily restore wildlife to Yankari to attract safari revelers. In a book called Amazing Nigeria by Kelechi Amariobi, we see a collection of some of Nigeria's most astonishing hidden treasures, from the Yake Adoiwaye Hills, the only suspended lake in Africa located in Ondo State, to the Oshun Owogiri Sacred Grove, one of the last remnants of the high forest in southern Nigeria. There is also the Idanre Hills, also in Ondo State. Then there is the River Niger Bridge that connects eastern and western Nigeria, and the Obunike Caves in Anambra State, which holds a strong spiritual significance to its people. I can go on about the various tourist destinations in Nigeria, as the country is blessed with so much to choose from if we decide to invest in this sector. But with the dire security situation in the country, can we ever explore the potential in the tourism sector in Nigeria? Ikenna Kingsley, Arise News.
Yet again, as usual, another reason why we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong? I mean, look at those artworks that Britain just returned to Nigeria. Imagine how much money that they have made from showcasing our own artwork. We had to fight tooth and nail to get it back, and that is just a fraction of what we still have out there that hasn't been returned to us as the rightful owners. And I saw one mask, which was the mask of Festac 77. That must have been before your time, but Festac 77, which is what I'm going to ask the guests when they come.
Oh yes, 77.
Yes, Festac 77 was a collaboration of so many Pan-African countries, all came together to Nigeria, to Lagos, in fact, to host our multicultural differences, to showcase our cultural differences, our music, our food. In fact, a town was built for this visit, and it was legendary. And I don't know why they stopped teaching history. I hear that history has just been brought back into the curriculum, introduced into the curriculum after 13 years of absence. If we don't know history, how can we even appreciate what we have?
Another big topic.
I mean, there were some of these pictures. In fact, some of the pictures Ikenna showed was just a fraction of the many beautiful, beautiful, amazing sights that they had to see.
And most of them have been run down over the years, unfortunately.
No, but there's some that are not even run down. They haven't been affected by nature. In fact, like wine, they've even gotten better.
But in terms of the
age.
tourist potentials of these places, in terms of it contributing to the GDP and actually becoming a tourist, full-fledged, maintaining the high potentials of the place, they're not achieving any fraction of what they can actually
And that's
achieve.
also because these places are not that accessible.
Exactly.
They should make these places like resorts.
Right.
Build hotels, build the roads, repair the roads, make it like a holiday resort.
Right.
I mean, why do you want to, you go to, I mean, a friend of mine was just telling me the other day that when he feels down and out, or when he feels down, he just goes to Takwa Bay, takes his boat, rides on the boat, he comes back and he feels like he has been to New York.
And that's how it should be. Because when you look at some of the world's most developed tourist areas, Las Vegas, Dubai, their citizens and their residents actually make up a good percentage of the tourists.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Nigeria, many of our citizens don't even know what we are blessed with.
Do we even know? A lot of the average person doesn't even know about most of these tourist sites.
Exactly.
That, Ikena mentioned amongst
Can we
many
even,
others.
in 2022, which tourist places did you visit in Lagos,
Well, I mean,
across
it
Nigeria?
didn't even cross my mind. But my truth of the matter is that if the younger generation were aware of these tourist attractions, they would also visit.
Exactly.
You can only visit what you know. You can only go and investigate what you have heard of.
Right, and you mentioned
If
something
it's been
earlier,
downplayed,
influencing, it should be nationally known.
it should be nationally known. You should go to international
Exactly.
hotels and see Nigeria being promoted. You should go, like this book of Kelechi Amadi Obi now called Amazing Nigeria. It should be a global product. It should be all over the world.
But before we
There should be a
promote it, we
documentary
have
on
to
it.
have leadership that actually cares to instill development
but I also
in these
think
areas.
that if something fails you, you have to be proactive.
Oh, and they are though. Many Nigerians.
No,
the
but my
entrepreneurs,
point
the
is,
investors, they're
then
doing
look
so
for,
much in the sector.
in that sector should look for investors.
Constantly.
They should look for corporate investors
Constantly, the likes
that will
of-
do things like this. And they should dig deep so that they discover our hidden treasures. We can't keep saying government. We are tired of singing the same
But if you
old
don't
song.
have the regular expected amenities, there's no stable electricity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
there's no good
That's what I'm
roads.
saying that-
Who is going to visit
No, but-
Nigeria? If there's insecurity, who is visiting? Who is patronizing these places and paying the amount of money necessary for them to have revenue to expand, to grow?
We created a train that it takes cost you only 6,000 naira to get to Ibadan.
And the train had issues in December.
Well, it had, yes, that's for the security reasons. But the fact remains that it was possible, do you understand, to get from Lagos to Ibadan
But with
by
good leadership,
train.
we maintain the standards.
Yeah, we will fight, we will struggle about maintenance, but let's even
We
create
don't want
it
to
first.
struggle. We want it to be strong.
It will
and
be strong,
excel.
but let's start somewhere. Let's
Right.
at least create and then create more awareness, make it easier to get access to these spaces, build hubs and hotels around these spaces. It's a
Absolutely.
long-term investment, but it can be done.
I
If we're
agree.
spending billions building the blue line and building railway lines,
And
why
then-
can't we invest in our tourism sector that will generate even more revenue than anything else?
Crucial sector.
Anyway, we're heading for a short break, but stay with us because when we return, we shall get to meet our distinguished guests. Enitan Rewane, a partner at Rook and Co. Legal Practitioners, and Ngozi Ngoka, a former Director General of the Imo State Tourism Board. Perspectives will return in just a moment. Joining us on the show this morning to discuss ways we can improve the tourism sector is Enitan Rewane, a founding member of Rook & Co., a full-service law firm based in Lagos State, Nigeria. Enitan is also passionate about the travel, tourism, and hospitality sector and is presently the chairman of the Travel, Tourism, Hospitality Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law. She is committed to using her position as the chairman of the committee to collaborate and engage the relevant stakeholders to gain proper understanding of the various challenges preventing the growth of this sector, including how to help position lawyers as necessary solution providers.
Also joining us is Ngozi Ngoka, who we just introduced. And joining us, we also have...
Welcome, Ngozi.
Festac 77.
No, that's the question. Welcome, Ngozi. Sorry about the brief interlude. It's good to see you guys. Great to see you guys here.
Just a second.
Ngozi, as we know, you're the vice president of the Tourism Association in Nigeria. You're also a member of several boards concerning tourism in Nigeria. You're a seasoned hand in this sector, and obviously, 25 years later, you're still fighting to find a voice for the tourism sector. Am I correct?
Partly. I'm no more vice president of tourism.
Okay, but
Association.
you once were.
That was a long time ago, yes.
Yeah, well, no harm in revisiting history. We just need to let our audience know how well versed you are in this field.
Yeah.
It's good to have you both here anyway. And
Thank
sorry
you.
about having to get you to wake up at very early hours. Huh? Anyway, Ngozi, I'm going to talk about something that I'm sure you and I both know. Because if you've been 25 years in the tourism industry, then you must be a very young lady like me. Now, Festac 77 held in Lagos at the time. Do you remember Festac 77? Festac 77, you remember? Anyway.
Without dating myself, yes, I do.
Don't worry, we're in the same boat. Anyway, First Act 77 in Lagos at the time was the second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture. The month-long event celebrated African culture and showcased to the world African music, fine arts, literature, drama, dance, and religion. You remember about 16,000 participants representing 56 African nations and countries of the African diaspora performed at the event. The whole town was actually built to accommodate and celebrate this event. Do you remember First Act Town? Today is a decayed shadow of its old self. Do you understand? And one cannot but wonder if Nigeria can ever get to this stage where it can host an event of that magnitude that would outlive its name in decades to come. Do you think it's possible? I know it's a tall order, but is it possible? And if so, how?
I think it's possible. It's not naturally. We all know that there's been a lull for some time in terms of tourism. There's not been anything done in the past 16 years since we had the national policy for tourism. It's been 16 years and nothing has been done. None of the plans have been implemented. But tourism is something that evolves naturally without any planning normally. And until we begin to see it as a business, we will not get it right. So you have all sorts of enterprises that relate to tourism. You have the food sector, you have the accommodation, you have the events. You have so many things that come together. So there has to be a synergy between all these sectors to be able to say that you have tourism in the country. For example, you talked about creatives. You talked about the creative industry.
Yeah.
They are actually doing quite well. We have the fashion, we have the musicians, we have comedians, we have everything. They are all doing very well. But these are the sectors that support tourism industry. So tourism itself is a business. And for as long as the government does not see it as a business, we may not get there. And we also have the problem, we have a special problem in Nigeria with the way tourism has been placed in the Nigerian constitution. And I think Enitan will talk more on that, because we did have a session with MBA last year to actually dissect this problem. And I'm sure that by the time she finishes, you'll be able to understand why there's not been any cohesion between the different sectors, between culture, between tourism, between culture, the creative industry, and tourism.
Enitan. Okay.
Thank you so much, Ngozi. Enitan, Rewane, we welcome you to Perspectives. Tourism is about the total experience. It's the travel, it's the entertainment, it's the hotel, it's the transportation. In Nigeria today, entrepreneurs, artists, investors, patriots, and people who are good citizens have contributed largely to tourism development. Although their efforts have been marred by poor caliber leadership in government and the lack of effective checks and balances. Today, we want to push forth the tourism industry. We want to recognize the efforts that citizens have put into the industry. What do you think can be done moving forward into 2023 and beyond to appreciate their efforts and to actually get government to do their part in establishing the development of tourism in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and well done. You're doing a great job with Perspectives. Like Ruth mentioned earlier, I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. I represent the NBA SBL, the Travel, Tourism and Hospitality Committee. And the reason why we have 22 sector-based committees under the section of business law. And the NBA recognized the need to have a committee as it relates to travel, tourism and hospitality, because they see it as a very important sector that we need to concentrate on. The truth of the matter, like Ngozi mentioned earlier, there is a problem in terms of legislation. The legislation that largely governs tourism matters in Nigeria, really, the principal legislation is the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation Act. And portions of the law have since, let me use the word, overruled by the Supreme Court. What happened in that case was that Lagos State government, and there's a matter between Lagos State government and the federal government. They went to court and said, you know what, Lagos State said had passed their own law as it relates to, it was a hotel licensing law. And they said, and the federal government said, no, you can't have the same law because we've already covered the field. We have a law in that matter already. And the Supreme Court held that the federal government cannot legislate or regulate tourism matters, that all they can do is to encourage and promote tourism. So the NTDC, in terms of that portion, that, they passed this law that the NTDC could do that. They said they can't do that, that the states, that it's not a matter on the exclusive list of the Constitution, that the states are the ones, it's a residual matter, and that the states can decide how to legislate, how to regulate tourism in their sector, in their states. So because of that, each state can do as they please when it comes to legislating and regulating. But so what you have is you don't have, like, I think in what the federal government, ideally, what we should have is to have the federal government being the ones who's somehow, I would rather say, ideally we should have a situation where they collaborate with the states and they have some kind of agreement between them so that we can have a proper unified kind of system as it relates to tourism and hospitality. But what you have now is the different states are doing their own thing. Lagos, Cross River State, Ogun State, Akwa Ibom, the states who have had the most tourists have been running with their own agenda. So we don't have uniformity. We don't have it. So that's where the problem is. Apart from that, we have a lot of associations, tourism-related associations, and we need to have some kind of synergy between them. So you have, So, if you don't have some kind of synergy and cooperation between all these different stakeholders, then there's a problem in terms of you trying to have some kind of regulation of the industry. So this really is where the problem is. And for you to change, I mean, for us to be able to change that, you have to really change the constitution. And to change the constitution is it's an almost impossible task.
Sounds like an ordeal task.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
Sounds like an ordeal task.
Yes.
And you know what this reminds me of? This just reminds me of the same police matter or no police matter, where in Lagos State, a crime is committed, you can't do anything until you get instruction from federal government. This lack of synergy between the federal government and the states in itself is to our detriment. And I really don't see how difficult it can be. Because at the end of the day, we're looking for how we can promote our own hidden treasures. But even aside from that, the publicity given to some tourist sites is also very low. Some of these naturally endowed tourist sites are not even known nationally, talk less of internationally. They're not even being taught about in schools. What is being done educationally to create more awareness of these hidden treasures, aside from the laws that you have to cross and you have to bring together to make it work for both state and both state and the government? Then secondly, I cannot count how many times I've seen social media influencers showcasing Dubai. They're being sponsored to go to places like Dubai and share their experiences online. Soft developments have succeeded in making Dubai, you must admit, one of the most sought after popular tourist attractions today. Why can't our tourism sector do the same to create the same vibrant synergy to drive the growth of the tourism industry? It still boils down to not having to rely on just the government that you can work with. There must be institutions, there must be banks, there must be large corporations that can join you to collectively, the different bodies that you have, do you understand, and sponsor social media influencers that will promote tourism. If I hadn't seen Kelechi's book, I would never have even known about most of these treasures that Nigeria has. So what's your take on that, Enitan?
Yeah, I think the issue, it still goes down to the fact that we really don't value what we have. And I think there's lack of understanding as to the value attached to tourism in terms of the job opportunities, the kind of returns on investment that you can get. I think there's a complete lack of understanding there. And I know that one of the banks, and I'm not holding brief for any bank here, has actually made provision up to like 1 billion naira for those who need investments, who need loans for tourism. But my understanding, having spoken to a few of the younger tourism practitioners, have said, look, they're not able to access these loans because the requirements are absolutely ridiculous. And so they're not able to fund their businesses. So really, there's the issue of getting access to funding. You know, there's the issue of even trying to... You can partner with airlines, but you see, but your investors want to be sure that they have to feel that there's a conducive environment for them to invest in your business. And they have to have like a buy-in. But I think outside that, I think there needs to be a proper understanding, even within the communities where a lot of these cultural sites are located. I think the communities need to understand the value that, you know, if we actually take care of what we have and make it more attractive, more people, if we keep it safe, the issue of safety always comes in. And I always use the example of what Pastor Paul did with Experience. It sounds like it's a tiny example, but I mean, I feel it's something that can blow if it's engineered properly. Experience is they do it near my office by TBS. And this is the 17th, I think the 17th one was the one we did last year. And that's the heart of Lagos. Yet, what you have is, it runs peacefully, it's organized, the area boys have been engaged to ensure that the place... You don't get sponsorship. It's all individual donations and all of that. What I'm saying is, in terms of, I think the same thing can apply to tourism. I think if various stakeholders, you see, I think people need to come together. I think there are too many different people trying to do the same thing. I think there needs to be collaboration between, you know, because I think that our strength is in our diversity, and we're not harnessing the value of that diversity that we have. I think that's where I feel the problem is. I think we're relying on government. Yes, government is expected to do so much, but sadly, government has been failing us. Yeah. But I think if us as a people truly understand what we have, that this brand called Nigeria is a brand we can sell anywhere in the world, and we run with it, and we run.
On harnessing, get your strength from harnessing this same concept. Do you understand?
Yes.
And then sell it to the public.
Yes. And as lawyers, you know, and I'm holding brief for lawyers now, a lot of tourism businesses are small businesses. And obviously they feel, we can't afford to get a lawyer. But it's important you bring a legal person in. You know, you can always reach an arrangement. You know, a lot of people in my committee are lawyers who are passionate about the sector and who truly believe that Nigeria is the most beautiful country. Nigeria has the best of the best, and we want to showcase what we have. So I need to appeal to tourism practitioners to please reach out to lawyers. Bring lawyers in. Let them guide you in terms of your structure, your legal structure, in terms of helping you with your agreements, in just making sure that your business is ticking the boxes in terms of the legal requirements.
Thank you so much.
Because I think thank you.
Thank you so much. We're heading for a short break, but do please stay with us. Perspectives will be right back. Welcome back to Perspectives on Arise News. Enitan made some very valid points before we went on break. It's very important that these participants, the players, the leaders, employees in the tourism sector come together to continue to push forward the sector and never give up, despite the challenges we have in government. And on that same note, 2023 will play a critical role in progressing us as a nation as we move forward to going to the polls and electing our future leaders. Ngozi, thank you for standing by on Perspectives. I want to ask you a question. Today, across Nigeria, I can't happily or enjoyably say that there's a city or a tourist destination that I would get the best relaxation, good entertainment, safe, secure transportation to that destination, and very comfortable, enjoyable accommodation. From your experience in the sector, what would you say are the top 3 cities? And tell us what are their monuments, their tourism resorts. Where can we go to in these cities to actually have a very good education, very good vacation? As many of us tend to travel out when we want to vacate. We tend to go to Dubai, we tend to go to Accra, we tend to go to Kigali. Where in Nigeria can we go to have a good vacation?
There are so many places you can go to in Nigeria, but I think for entertainment,
world-class standard.
Well, I don't know what you mean by world-class standard, because tourism actually should be every destination should create a niche for itself.
Absolutely.
Right? And so if you want entertainment, if you want authentic Igbo entertainment, you have to come to Owerri. There's no better place for that, yes. And then if you want to visit, tourism sites, you're looking at, you could go to, Yankari, you could go to Kaduna State.
So let's stay on Owerri. How do we get to, what destination in Owerri, and how do we get there?
Well, there's an airport in Owerri. In fact, Owerri is in the middle of the eastern region, and there are about 4 airports that service Owerri. It's just the best destination for you to go to. But I'm not here to market Owerri, really. If we're looking at how to get there, you can get there by air, you can get there by road. And then there are just too many things to do. You have authentic music, food, good food, and you have tourism sites around that area also to visit. But in terms of tourism for Nigeria, I think we need to harmonize and coordinate the tourism development policies and plans for the country. Yes, for anything to work, because now you're talking about domestic tourism. And for domestic tourism to thrive, for people to feel comfortable traveling within Nigeria, there has to be coordinated policies that will make it conducive for people to do that. All the places that you talk about that you visit, and Dubai spends a lot of money to market Dubai. It's with the involvement of the private sector. But the private sector in Nigeria, like Enitan said, they've not properly organized themselves to form a formidable
force.
Yeah, to form a formidable force to actually lobby the government. And this is how it's done all over the world. You talked about Vegas Strip, for example. The Vegas Strip was mainly, it's hotels that came together to actually form the strip. It was not a government-created enterprise. But now the government supports them because
the environment was enabled by government.
Yes, and they realize they make a lot of money for the community there and also for the country. And there's a new phenomenon also that has developed, which is the tourism development areas, which I think we can look at to combat this problem of the legislation, that Enitan was talking about, the hindrance we have in regards to the place of tourism in the country. If we create tourism development areas that will work sort of like the export-free zone, but just for tourism, I think that would work. And then we circle tourism sites, cordon them off in a certain area and provide security there, infrastructure, enable the private sector to actually operate in those areas. I think that would work in the interim while we're waiting for a new constitution. Yeah, a new constitution, which takes a long time to happen. And one thing I want to say also is that I've looked at some of the manifestos from some of the political.
Okay.
Yes. From the political parties, we actually called for that about 3 weeks ago, and I was looking at them, and they're not talking about tourism, and I find it to be disheartening because a lot of countries are reviving their economy through tourism.
Absolutely.
It's a low-hanging fruit, and it's the easiest way to develop rural communities. So I don't even know why politicians don't see it as, as the best way to get to the hearts of the local community.
Yes.
In that
Yes,
sector.
because it's the easiest way. You put infrastructure for them, and they stay in the communities where they are used to, and they make money from there. And it stops this urban migration and all of that. And you go to the villages, everybody is thriving economically. And these are the areas that we should actually be looking at. And like you said, the politicians, if any of them is listening to this, if they are listening to this program, they should actually look at tourism, because that is where development is. It's absolutely the low-hanging fruit.
I have to come in there, Ngozi. I have to come in there. You see, there are some things that are better run privately. It's clear the government don't hold this sector in very high consideration. And quite frankly, I feel if this sector is channeled and run privately, it will grow much further.
With an enabled environment.
Yes, it will grow much further. They will put their money where their mouth is, and they will get their returns of their investments. So it's not a charitable venture. It's a venture that, if well run and well put in place, you give it a 10-year, 5-year mark and say, okay, these are the tourists. First and foremost, how many of our generation even know about all these hidden treasures? I mean, you spoke about one in Owerri now. I've never been there. I've never heard of it. The only ones we hear are, what's that thing called? Something falls. And we've heard about a lot of waterfalls and what have you, but the average person is not aware of the treasures that we have in our country. So if we are there, how can we expect the foreigner to understand what we have? So, and then the insecurity, come on now. They built a train and we started celebrating and said, oh, finally, you can go to Ibadan, you can go to Kaduna, you can go to whatever. Now, you want to go to the train, short of writing your bill behind. Because you're not guaranteed that you'll get to where you're going to in safety. You're either being kidnapped, do you understand? So even that has now been rendered unsafe. Just when one thing is being introduced and we think we're moving forward, we'll go 10 steps back. So I think we should focus less on government reviving this industry and focus more on corporations that can invest in it and look at it as a 10-year business plan, because we will definitely reap the rewards. So, you understand? We will reap the rewards. And these are, as far as I'm concerned, are part of the answers. Or what do you think? And isn't this answer more rich, and this solution is more reachable than relying on the government that is epileptic at this point in time and has failed us so many times? Even you said it's not in the manifesto. Okay. So what's your take?
So nobody is relying on government, right? Tourism is actually private sector driven, but there are some regulations that have to be put in place for the industry to thrive, just like any other industry. The government tax tourism enterprises a lot. The tax is so much. I think the last time I checked, there are different, about 20 different taxes.
Wow.
So how can you tax an industry that you've not invested in? Provision of infrastructure, for example, private sector that would do that. Provision of security is government. So you have infrastructure, you have security, and then market. Well, we can say that the private sector can come together and market their, market as a whole, market the country as a whole. But can you really do that?
Well, you can start something small. Pastor Paul hosted over 100,000 people in his concert, and government had nothing to do with it.
Many citizens are starting.
Exactly.
People are doing big concerts,
so
and nothing is happening, and it's being run smoothly. Just channel that same energy into the tourism sector.
Exactly. But if everybody is doing their own thing without any kind of regulation, without any kind of standardization, is it going to work? You're going to have chaos. What if Pastor Paul, for example, is having an event in Lagos and is expecting, say, 50,000 people?
Yeah.
The government has to know about that because it's not just the event, it's not the capacity. Okay. If you're expecting more people in your locality than you already have, you have to think of the environment.
But are you thinking of passing a bill? Are you going to pass it? Are you trying to pass a bill into the House of Rep, for instance, to introduce to this matter?
Another problem. That's another problem, Ruth. There are currently about 4 different bills at the National Assembly.
What are the bills that is being passed in the National Assembly at the moment?
Honestly, they are just some of them are not even open to the public. I don't know how it's done. They've not passed it through public hearing. They've not passed them through public hearing.
Why? Why is that though? What's the bottleneck?
Leadership
issue. First of all, we have so many organizations at the federal level handling tourism. You have at the ministry, you have different departments at the ministry, and then you have some parastatals as well, all doing conflicting things. So when you talk about, Dubai tourism, for example, there's a one-stop shop. Dubai tourism is an organization. If you want to do anything about tourism, you go there, right? In Nigeria, you have to go to different departments, different ministries, different departments just to set up a hotel.
Oh, but we know this.
So too many cooks in the kitchen, basically.
So many cooks. So that's one of the problems. And another thing is that the greatest fear I have is this the opening of ECOWAS, the opening of West African as a free free market.
The intra-Africa trade, yes.
Equator. No, the African trade is even further because the ECOWAS one is going to happen in 2029. It's quite close. When that happens, what is going? You see that a lot of our tour operators, these young people that you're talking about, a lot of them are already finding their way around West Africa. They are doing tours, around West Africa. They are not bringing people to Nigeria. They are taking people out of Nigeria to the rest of West Africa, where it's conducive for them to operate without fear of security, without too much taxation.
Exactly.
So that is my greatest fear, and that is why we are trying so hard between Enitan's department and what
before we wrap up, let's hear Enitan's last statement because we are rounding up soon. I feel your plight. And please don't lose hope. Enitan, give us your sort of.
What would you like to contribute to the conversation?
What I like. Well, I'm fiercely optimistic, and I truly believe in Nigeria. Yes, I am. I'm fiercely optimistic, and I just feel that I'm hoping if we have a new government in place, that for some reason, or if they're listening in, they would actually realize that they have to put tourism at the top of the burner. When I think about a country like Tanzania, that apparently, I think in 2019 made $2 billion from tourism.
Can you imagine that?
And $1 billion, apparently that was the largest foreign exchange earner. And I think of a country like Nigeria with over 200 million people, with massive land, massive, different types of sites and all that diversity. I find it very sad that it hasn't happened here. There's no reason why tourism should not be our biggest. And we should remember one thing. Tourism is tied to different sectors. It's not just about people, the tourists coming. There are different businesses that thrive from tourism.
Absolutely.
There are different types. And it's not just even, we have different types of tourism. We've got business tourists. In those days, we had educational tourism. Because people used to come
medical tourism, yes.
Yeah, and I understand even there's religious tourism apparently is also a big earner in Nigeria. Because people come in to go to for camp and go to all of those different places and all of that. So we've got there's no reason why we shouldn't have medical tourism. In the days of the University of Ibadan, Ruth and all of those places when we were running really well, people were coming from other countries.
Yeah, I remember. Yes, Ibadan was one of the best universities in the world.
So these things are possible. It can happen. We just need those who can share the vision and the understanding of what we have, and then they can run with it.
But apart from sharing the vision, go on. Let me finish your sentence.
Yeah, apparently you have a lot of young people are involved in tourism in that sector.
Yes,
but I hear that a lot of them, after a while, they give up. They give up because they're not able to.
But can I ask one quick question before we round off, Enitan? You know that even if we can't create the atmosphere for people to come and visit us, how about taking what we have abroad to showcase? I remember years ago there was this band called Ipitombi. I don't know if you remember it. It was a South African band. And I remember at that age, I was only about maybe 10, 11. I knew every single song, even though they were sung in South African language. Yeah. Can we have plays or dramas like that we can export?
But that's already been done.
Yeah, but we need to do more of it, is what I'm saying. To tell the African Nigerian narrative. Tell our stories, to the world. You understand? I can go to Kenya and you're singing a Yoruba song. Yes, music has done that. But how do we sell our heritage, our culture to the outside world, apart from them coming in? How do we sell it?
It's already
take it out?
done by the movie industry. Yeah, the movie industry.
No, I'm talking about stage dramas, like musicals.
Yes, sir. Bolande is doing that.
Okay, yes, Bolande is doing that, but we need more Bolande.
She does that. She exports her plays. She exports her.
Bolande. Yeah, Bolande St. Peters. But why would we have one? We need at least 10 Bolande St. Peters. 10 more.
10 private enterprises.
But anyway,
but it's not even something that I advocate really, because we are taking it defeats the whole purpose.
For it to work both ways. At least whilst we are not being supported here, let's go and promote our brand outside ourselves. But as you know, with every topic that concerns the development of Nigeria, there's never enough time. There's never enough time. So I want to thank you, Enitan, and thank you, Ngozi, for being such wonderful hosts. You can go back to bed now. What time is it? This is about 5 o'clock, 5 a.m.
It's about 5 a.m.
It's not that bad now, Ngozi. You're making it sound like people were waking you up at 6 a.m.
I'm already awake.
Anyway, thank God. But did you enjoy it? I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And we hope that we can revisit this issue again. Most of our topics will always be revisited.
Thank you both. Very nice to have your perspectives.
Thank you so much for being with us as Perspectives. Good to see you again. Now, some beautiful paths can't be discovered without getting lost. It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see in the process. As we all know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. So please, explore. Experiment, experience. The goal is to die with memories, not dreams. And lastly, always remember, life is a learning curve. That's all we have time for today. You've been watching Perspectives here on Arise News with me, Ruth Osime.
And I'm Olatorera Majakudumi Oniru. For your next international tour of world-class relaxation and great hospitality, I'm happy to recommend Abuja in Nigeria, Cape Town in South Africa, Mahe Island in Seychelles, Marrakesh in Morocco, Port Louis in Mauritius. The key to Africa's future is Africa. Think collectively, vote collective progress, and we will live in unity, peace, and progress. Thank you for watching Perspectives. See you next weekend. Goodbye.